Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Today's guest is Marcy Morrison. Marcy works in corporate wellness, which is an area that many health coaches are extremely eager to explore. She came from a successful run in the fitness industry and pivoted to the corporate world because she saw people around her suffering and perishing of lifestyle diseases and realized that these people needed to be helped outside of the gym. Corporate wellness was the clear opportunity for her to help the most amount of people, and she's never looked back. She's been picked up by corporations large and small. And one of the most important things to take away from Marcy's origin story is that she declared corporate wellness as her niche and then doubled down on it despite not having any experience in the corporate world. But that's what you have to do to be considered an expert. Decide what you're the expert in and then embody that every day. Our show's sponsor is Primal Health Coach Institute. We're a health coaching school that provides aspiring and existing health and fitness professionals with the training, resources, and support to make a lucrative living changing lives. We've got thousands of graduates practicing unique coaching specialties and changing lives in countries all over the world. Some of them are even working in corporate wellness. Visit primalhealthcoach.com to learn about all of our coaching and specialty certifications, including the Primal Health Coach certification course, the Primal Fitness Coach certification course, the Master Coach certification course, which satisfies the educational requirements to sit for the Health Coaching National Board exam. Check out our Launch Your Coaching Business course, which will nurture you to create and sell your signature health coaching program. We have even more courses coming down the pike soon, so if you're interested in functional therapeutic diets, the human intestinal microbiome, strength training for women, or learning how to be a health coach in a medical practice, keep on checking back to our website and sign up to our email list to be the first to find out when these outstanding new programs drop. Visit primalhealthcoach.com and check it out. While you're visiting our website, also, you can learn about our done-for-you 12-week coaching program delivered to your clients via a smartphone app. Learn more about Primal Pro at primalhealthcoach.com/Primal Pro. As you're listening to today's show, make sure to screen grab your podcast player and tag us in your Instagram stories at Health Coach Radio. And don't forget, the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes of the pod can be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. We know you're going to love this chat, whether you have dreams of working in corporate wellness or not. So let's get right into it. Please enjoy our conversation with Marcy Morrison.
Marcy Morrison, we are so excited to talk to you. We've been chatting offline and we finally were like, let's just record because all this stuff is so great. We want to share it with other people. So we're excited to talk to you about all things corporate wellness. I just gave it away a little bit, but share, if you don't mind, your story about kind of who you are and how you got to what it is you're doing today.
All right. Well, I'm so excited to be with you ladies. I listen to you a lot. And so I'll start with my story. I owned a brick and mortar health and fitness and wellness center in South Florida. And I worked 100 hours a week. It got very, very busy, very, very quickly. We had 1,300 square feet. I did, but I say we because I hired a bunch of people. And we took 150 appointments a week out of that little space.
Wow.
And it was crazy busy. I was on the news every week in South Florida. I figured that would be a great way to promote my business. So I pitched them and they took me on, and I did fitness and health tips on the Channel 5 News in West Palm Beach, which is a huge news station. So it really exploded my business. Loved it, loved helping people. It was mostly weight management. I thought it would just be for women, but I had about 50% of my clients turned out to be men. A lot of it was, people wanted that aesthetics, to lose weight and to look great. And back then, it was a long time ago, it was kind of what we did. Like, let's work out really hard and eat really small amounts of food. And I was trying to teach them not to starve themselves at all, even back then, but it's just changed. It was more about how you looked back then. I was really muscled up and really, really thin. And I don't know, just not healthy. So because I was working all the time, I was never sleeping, I was overtraining. So I looked really healthy, but of course was not. So after I had my son, I realized, well, as soon as I was pregnant, I realized there's no way I'm going to be able to keep this up. So sold that business and had my son, took some time off when I had my son. And then when my son was about 1.5, my family members got very sick. My mother had passed away when I was pregnant with my son, her first grandchild. It was very sad, right before I had him, actually. And then when he was very young, both my father and my sister got very, very sick. So I moved to New England from Florida to help my sister take care of my father. Long story short, my sister and father passed away 30 days apart.
Oh, boy.
So I was just reeling with grief and couldn't believe that I had lost my entire family. And I had this little 2-year-old, and I had been taking care of people, for a long time. And when I recovered from that grief, I had to go back and get a career. And I went to IIN and became a health coach. And I thought, I don't want to do one-on-one anymore. This is just, I can't go back into that crazy life. So I just declared, I'm going to be a corporate consultant. I'm going to do corporate health coaching. And I think that there's a powerful part to that story, because it's not as hard as you would think, the corporate coaching. I declared it, and I hope that all the coaches out there listen to you guys and to this. You already have it. You can do this. And the reason I declared I'm going to be a corporate coach is because I saw people die. They weren't necessarily preventable diseases. Alzheimer's, my father, which we now know is certainly much more preventable than we ever thought. We need to help people, as many as possible. And I was only going to be able to help people who could afford me if I was just going to go back into what I did before. And I really started to research corporate wellness and really learned how I could make a massive impact on a huge amount of people. And so I just forged ahead and found my calling as a corporate health coach and a corporate consultant. And I've never looked back. And I got my first clients. My first client was actually J.W. Henry and Associates. And that was when I was in Florida, and he now owns he owned the Florida Marlins at the time. And now he owns the Boston Red Sox. They called me, they saw me on the news, they called me in, and I didn't know who they were. And that's what I learned about what is corporate wellness. That was when I owned my brick and mortar. So then I kind of took what I had learned from them and sort of parlayed it into my corporate consulting business. My first clients were just going in and doing workshops, a lot of weight management workshops for things like Wells Fargo Wealth Management, big names. And then I wound up becoming the wellness director for an insurance broker that provided benefits. And we had 100,000 lives that we were responsible for as far as health insurance and benefits go. And I was their wellness director and started their wellness program, and they're a great group, and I'm still in contact with them. And so that's where it all started. And here I am.
Ooh, okay. Great stuff. So I think this is interesting that you declared that you were moving into corporate wellness. And just out of curiosity, do you have a corporate background at all?
Nope, never worked in corporate. I've always been self-employed.
Amazing.
But I think, listen, people who've coached with you guys are all you have to do is declare it. Because you've taught them so well. So I'm hoping, and now listen, I listen to a lot of your guests, and some of them are so highly credentialed, and it's almost like, oh my God, what am I doing? I don't have 3 PhDs and that. I mean, so I'm here to be the other side, to say, you already have enough. You're working with these 2 ladies. You already are there. So I'm going to help you.
Yeah. Well, I love this declaration. I'm working on some business curriculum to help launch new coaches into their business, just to get it started.
Yes.
And one of these exercises I came up with was this idea of staking your claim.
I love it.
It's like, stake your claim. You are going to be an expert in something, and I'm just going to have to ask you to declare that, and sort of just belly up to it. Like, okay, I'm corporate wellness, let's go. And there's some bravery inherent in that. I don't know if bravery is the right word, but I'm going to go with it. Bravery. You have to, or a suspension of all your disbeliefs or something.
Yes.
I think about, I think it was Elon Musk had this quote about, it was Elon Musk. I've shared this quote before, Laura, correct me if I'm getting the guy wrong, but the idea that business is a zero sum game. And if you stake your claim in some market, you're taking market share away from someone else. And it's not that. It's what solution can you provide? And so what I like about that origin story is that you really thought through it pragmatically. So these office buildings, okay. And so like I come from office life. That was my corporate experience before my sitting in offices with office workers and lots of unhealthy people, lots of unhealthy behaviors. We won't get into all of them, but, and to your point, people who have jobs and paychecks. And it's like, now there's a market, there's a way I can get, there's a way I can have impact, broad impact. Yes. And without burning out myself. Without burning myself out. That was the other thing too, right? So, I don't know. Do you think you're a inherently brave and bold person, or did you have to cultivate this in yourself? Do you think mere mortals can do it just like you did?
Well, I'll tell you, when I was younger and I owned that brick and mortar business and I called the news one day, I literally picked up the phone and pitched them on the phone, this is what I can do for you. I was extremely brave then. But going through what I went through put me into a very, an area that was not brave. In addition to all those things, I got diagnosed with thyroid cancer, which is, if you're going to have cancer, it's not a totally horrible one. I had my thyroid removed. The surgery was a little traumatic, but I lost so much bravery then. So don't think that I'm one of these people who is just constantly promoting myself, because my doctors then were saying, well, the other shoe has always dropped for you. Yeah. Because I was like, what is happening to me? I was so, I almost became introverted, and I'm an extreme extrovert. So no, the answer to that is no. I don't feel like I'm overly brave. In fact, much less so than I used to be. Life, when it kicks you numerous times, it takes an effort to climb back up that I feel okay and I'm going to be okay ladder. And it's still to this day takes effort for me to now reach out to new corporations. But what the underlying thing that makes me do it is remembering how many people are dying from diseases that they don't have to die from. And we already have enough health information out there to prevent that. The collective here, the three of us and all the people listening, we already have it. So you can't stop. Just because you don't feel brave, you went into health coaching to help people. It's your responsibility to just do what you said, declare it and jump and take that bravery and take the jump.
I wonder if maybe bravery, somewhere on in that bravery category, is vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Right. So when you're deeply grieving and you become, I think what you're kind of articulating is you kind of became more vulnerable. You were in a vulnerable sort of mental or emotional state, which makes sense. And I think there's power in vulnerability too, in some ways, in knowing that this is going to be uncomfortable. This is out of my comfort zone. I'm putting myself out there. That feels awkward and scary, and I'm going to do it anyway. And I feel like, and I don't want to put words or experiences in your mouth, but because you had gone through so many struggles in such a short period of time, it's almost like, what is the actual worst that could happen? The worst has kind of already happened in some ways. Right.
But PTSD will make you think like there's always going to be something new. So, for people who, but I do feel like it was what could I give back to my 50-year-old sister? How about just helping as many people as I possibly can while I'm here? And the only way to do that in my mind was, I don't have a big social media following or anything. So the only way I could do it is get into corporate, because there are a lot of people there. So, it was more something I felt like I needed to do as what can I give back here? What can I do now? I'm so stuck. I'm alone with this little 2-year-old, and, and it really did heal a lot. Meeting people who desperately need what we do and could otherwise never afford what we do, that's what lights me up. That's what changed my life.
Yeah. I think we were talking before we pressed record, and Laura, we were kind of getting a little sense of your origin story. And Laura mentioned, that's what we ask of all of our coaches that we train, but also that's what we ask of our clients is, what is your foundational why, your intrinsic motivator? And then I was thinking, one of the things that I teach our coaches to do in our master coach, our advanced coaching class, is follow that with a value prompt, which is, and why is that important to you? So when you figure out what your goal is, ask yourself also, why is that important to you? So this goes for health coaches going into business too. Wow. So you lost your 50-year-old sister to presumably some kind of metabolic lifestyle illness.
No, it was she had brain cancer. It had nothing to do with that. But the fact that so many people are dying and they can prevent it got me.
Okay. Yeah. And so and why is that important to you? I think I would like all coaches to just ask themselves that question. We ask our clients that question. So ask yourself that question. Why is it important to you? Once you find out why it's important to you, well, all bets are go for it. Like you're going to muster up the bravery and the vulnerability because it's important to you.
Agreed 100%. And it's important that we do this now, I think, more than ever. It's really important. I'm doing my part, and I've created a business that's going to help me do my part. You guys are doing your part to help 100 million people gain back health. It's sounds like such a lofty goal, but it's really, really important that you have that kind of goal, that big stretch goal. And then you got to back it down and one step at a time to get there, right?
I think there's a lot of value in coaches going through this exercise and sort of identifying areas around this sort of sense of vulnerability, because I do think bravery can arise out of that if you can work through it and be honest about it. When you really sort of think through that vulnerability and be honest about where your fears are coming from, and most importantly, what we're trying to avoid, which is the pain, right, of that vulnerability in those fears. And I got to tell you, once you've really sat in it and been honest about it and go back to it, you can realize, you know what, I survived it. There's a whole lot that can happen in life that is nothing in comparison to what I've already survived. Yeah. And you can use that to find the strength and the bravery to move forward, but you can also use that same experience to then be able to navigate around some of these risks moving forward.
That's right. Some of that, like for probably what you guys deal with these health coaches, probably a lot of the stupid term, but it's still imposter syndrome. They feel like, oh my God, I'm not good enough yet. Well, I always say this, and I've said this so many times, and I've really helped people jump. You want to get over imposter syndrome? Help a garbage collector.
Right.
Learn that eating that Wonder Bread sandwich with a Coke while he's got type 2 diabetes is a 5-alarm fire. Like, no, we've got to change that for you. This guy may not know what a whole food is. I remember talking Whole Foods, and having someone raise their hand and saying, well, we don't have a Whole Foods near us. This was a long time ago, but you got to remember, not everybody could ever afford an organic vegetable.
Right.
So you want to get over imposter syndrome, help that guy, or help that little executive assistant who's running ragged and working round the clock and maybe doing something after work to support her 2 kids. That's where you're going to get over imposter syndrome. You're going to start realizing, like, whoa, these people really need me, and their company is paying for it. So I don't have to worry about taking their money that they probably couldn't afford, and I get to change their lives. That is what absolutely lights me up, gets me out of bed every day. And I would hope that health coaches would realize, you've got this already. You can do this.
You know what I love about this take too? So there's a couple things that I wrote down. So I want to contrast, you owned this fitness business where you were working 100 hours a week as the business grew, right? Clearly unsustainable, out of control stress, what have you. And so again, stress, there's pain involved here, a past vulnerability or experience that when you came back to try to take another crack at this, you were like, it's probably not the way for me to go. Right. And so understanding, how can I serve more people yet build a career for myself in a way that is sustainable. So I love your come from here, because there are some people that are like, I want to go into corporate wellness because that's where all the money is. I hear that. Okay. And that's, again, not a bad thing. We want to be able to be paid, but you're coming from this. How can I help more people without undermining myself, right? And my own health, and earn a living that allows me to serve people. We hear this from coaches all the time, this guilt around charging people for,
Yes, exactly.
oh my gosh. And I'm like, you're not charging them to be healthy. That's
Right.
not it, right? But if you're not able to create a sustainable income for yourself, you will not be here to help others.
That's right.
And this corporate
That's right.
wellness space may be it. And here's where I like this too, because there's a lot of coaches that are very excited about the idea of eventually being able to accept insurance. Okay, so the benefit of that is perhaps those that couldn't afford health coaching can now afford it because insurance is paying for it. But you just ask any doctor, any clinical practitioner that accepts insurance, that is the fastest way to poverty, where you have to see more clients in order to make the same amount of money. Whereas in corporate wellness, it's coming from a different place, right? These corporations are subsidizing this for their employees because it benefits the employee, it benefits the company. And the invested in employees to really engage, right? So yeah, we have kind of like an outside payer, but again, the come from, as far as how people access this, is a little bit different than the whole like insurance model. So what a great way to continue down that path and being affordable to other people and working with an actual third party that's invested in the person.
Absolutely. And then you come in and you don't have to be the 3 PhDs with, you don't. What you think about this. When you're going to go into a company, here's something you have to know. So I'm going to give some little tips here.
Love it.
You have to cast a very wide net. So, we're always talking about niche down, niche down. I've never niched down. You own a brick and mortar thing. You just bring it. When people come in, you take them. So I've never been into this niche down thing. When you go into a corporate, say you're going to do some health coaching for corporate, you cast a wide net. Anyone who's in that corporation is allowed to join your program. It's called, there's a law with the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. The final rules for wellness programs, they require similarly situated individuals. That means everyone who's in that company gets to join. So you don't start out with this high level metabolic health and gut microbiome, all the stuff that you're like reading notes to teach. Start teaching how to lose weight. And I know this is like blah, 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 but I will just, let me lose weight is such a pain in the rear end. We don't want to teach that, but you sell them what they want. Everyone will join a weight management program. And then you give them what they need, which is, okay, weight loss is such a secondary thing here. They call me the bait and switch queen. I do it all the time. And then they stick with it. They learn healthy lifestyle, micro changes, healthy habits, behavior change. And yeah, guess what? If you're way overweight, you're going to lose some body fat. And if you're working correctly, you're going to gain muscle. So you're going to decrease your processed foods and sugars. You're going to increase your whole foods and lean proteins and, you're going to teach people the basics, because that's the most likely the people who know very little about health and wellness are going to be the original people who are going to join your program when you do it for corporate. Mm-hmm. I think everyone gets fearful that you're going to go into a corporate setting like the CEO who's got 2 PhDs, type A, knows everything because he's, followed some doctor who says blank. That's not really who shows up for these corporate wellness programs. Right. They are that person who probably couldn't afford it. Or those people. So you don't have to be so panicked and so worried and have that imposter syndrome when you're going into a corporate setting. It's like a small group coaching program that somebody else is paying for. You want to give them really, really great value. You want to do something that will get people to join. So you want to, if you're doing something that's very specific, like gut health, you might get a smaller number than if you did something like weight management. But here's the trick. Then once you get all those people who learn so much from you with the optimal health program that you've named weight management, then you can move them into, hey, let's do this part 2 6-week series on gut health or whatever your specialty is. So I think that people get nervous when they hear corporate because they think it's going to be intimidating when they get in there. And it's truly not. And people are so appreciative when you come in and you do something great in a fun health program and make it fun. Don't make it another meeting they have to attend. That's where you get off of the worry about imposter syndrome, or I can't do this, or I'm not credentialed enough.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say, the meeting thing. I get the sense from coaches, because we hear this a lot about from coaches who want to get into corporate wellness, and they'll say, what should I teach? What should I talk about? In fact, we went to the trouble of making a presentation that coaches could go into a boardroom and deliver. It's a high level health presentation, but like, don't make it another meeting. Don't make it another boring PowerPoint presentation. And I used to do some corporate wellness as well. I was contracted through a big national chain of gyms up here in Canada to go into corporate offices. And the gym had a menu of topics that the facilitator could present on, and the company would pick, oh, let's do one on hydration. Let's do one on healthy snacks. Let's do one on whatever. And I would just go with this pre-made PowerPoint presentation, and I would just basically be the talking head pointing at these slides that I didn't even make, that I honestly don't even agree with in half the time. And they were so bored. It's like they just got ushered into the boardroom on their lunch break to listen to me tell them to drink 8 glasses of water a day. Yeah. Like, so what I think is really interesting here is what a wow experience it would be for a health coach to come into an office and not do that, not align themselves with this expectation of a lunch and learn in a boardroom, right?
Yeah,
no, right. So it's almost like if you have this weight management program or whatever, however you're going to pitch it to the HR manager or the executives to get you in there, something like weight management is very compelling. But to your point, don't lead with gut health. By the way, that should just be that's just business advice for every health coach. Right. Don't lead with gut health, because nobody knows.
Don't lead with the most complicated subject. Don't. Yeah. And you don't have to. And they make you follow with that if that's your thing. Yeah. Right. I have a hard time teaching gut health. It's so complex, and I'm not a doctor, and it's so
down the line. It's so down the line for these folks. Like, I think to myself, if you went into a weight management program and the very first thing you taught was, hey, to a room full of people, whoever you're speaking to, tell me what your greatest dietary derailment is, with no judgment. Might be, oh, for me, it's the chips. For me, it's the cookies. For me, it's the late night snacking. For me, that's all environment. That's all environment. So we say, what if we changed your environment at home? What if for this week, when you went to the grocery store, you didn't buy the Oreos?
Right.
Just try that out. See what life is like without Oreos in the pantry. And there's nothing wrong with Oreos, but this is just an environmental, just what a wow experience, because people in weight management programs have been taught to eat less and move more.
Exactly.
Calories in, calories out. But they haven't been taught this environmental piece. No one's talking about it. No. And I think that would be just so interesting. And that would immediately tell your audience that you're here to do things differently.
Right.
Because the old paradigm hasn't worked anyway. I just think I love that you're sharing this, because I want health coaches in corporate wellness or in any category to think through micro habits, which is what you said. What is the first most important, impactful thing we can do that's easy?
Well, one of the things I do, so I create a lot of content. I have corporate clients now. Right now, it's a small group. Right now, I have about 7,000 that I deal with, but I've worked with about 150,000 employees so far, and I'm working on bringing in new corporations right now. But one of the things I do when I create content, and this is a great thing for coaches to do I do a year-long campaign called One Simple Change. And even in my weight loss program, so say a coach is going to do a 6-week program, you go in to these people, like you said, and you talk about, can we not buy this week, let's not buy Oreos. This week, let's only drink water. Now, drink your tea or your coffee in the morning, but only drink water to quench your thirst 4 days. Make it that easy. Like, okay, I can do it for 4 days. And I would say, if you can do it for 4 days, You can do it for 7 days. Give yourself a break when you want to have something that's wrong and naughty, of course, but a health coach could come into a corporation and say, we're going to do a 6-week program on one simple change, and we're going to habit stack for 6 weeks, and we're going to make it fun, and we're going to laugh at our derailments, and we're going to get right back on the horse, because that's what we're going to do here. And we're going to create accountability groups out of the people who have shown up for this program, and we're going to start walking together. And if you can create that little culture of wellness within that organization and get people excited about just micro habits, you're going to be asked back a lot. It can be that simple. And I'm glad you said that, Erin. It can be that simple.
It should be that simple.
It should be that simple, because you want to start people off in the right ways with something they can succeed in. All of my weight management programs are basically habit stacking.
Well, and I would love your opinion on how to maybe from the get-go reframe this stuff, because I'm in my second corporate wellness program, and a lot of people, when they join a program around weight loss or however it's billed, there's always those people that are joining with the preconceived notion that this is yet another dietary program that they have to follow. And the question, just to illustrate this, I got from a few people, it's awesome, Laura, that we're talking about what types of foods we should consider eating and learning all of these. But at what point are you going to tell us how much to eat?
Right.
They're so used to being told how many calories they should be consuming, how much, all this other stuff, that it's a diet, where I made it a huge focus of the last sort of webinar class that I did as a group about, hey, you know what? It's not my job to put you on a diet. I'm not your mama. That's not what we're doing. And look, I really want us to just put a stake in the ground and say, from this moment forward, we're not dieting anymore.
Right.
The purpose of this program,
and there's I say diet is not a verb. So take it out of that. Like, I'm dieting. No, you're not. You're changing your nutrition plan. You're increasing your movement. I talk a lot about the movement, exercise, and working out, which is, working with weights. You got to move every hour. You got to get up every hour and move. So for those health coaches out there who are also personal trainers, go and do a micro movement program for a corporation, like teaching them how to get up from their desk every hour and move. Because we all know, like, teaching people how much to eat, well, your nutritional needs and your basal metabolic rate is completely different than the person sitting next to you. So if there was a magic bullet, we would all be healthy, lean, fit, spectacular. We would all be there. There would be no unhealthiest nation in the world that we're sitting in right now. There wouldn't be the case. So we have to teach them how to work within their own body and their own nutritional needs and what they like and past experience. If you can just bring that little bit into, like, why are you eating so much? Did you grow up in a big, like, happy, wonderful Italian family that put food as like comfort and love and this, those types of things? If you can just make people laugh about that and say, oh, wow, maybe this eating stuff comes from deeply rooted childhood stuff or family stuff. And, those types of things are wonderful to put into a corporate setting, because it makes it fun. You want people to want to come to your stuff because you want to get invited back again and again and again. So if you're making it fun, people are getting results, and you're creating this little micro culture within that group that shows up to your programs, and they're spreading the word. I've done programs where I started out with 30 people and ended up with 150, and they had to move me into this big auditorium because they started spreading the word, like, this is really fun and it's really cool, and she's giving out prizes as they go. And so little things like that, but it's fun, t-shirts or whatever. And so if you can create something that's just really fun but is giving really good information and giving people some grace about, hey, you know what, I don't lose weight easily, it's okay. What we want you to do is become healthier and gain, like you ladies say, gain back health. Yeah. That's the purpose of it. And if you lose weight, great, but they'll show up for that weight loss program. That's why I do it.
Yeah. No, that's a really nice approach. First of all, that to me exemplifies health coaching. I don't want to cast any aspersions, but I really hope a health coach isn't going in and prescribing macronutrient breakdowns to rooms full of people, because that's not
You can't do that.
coaching.
Well, they do it, but you shouldn't.
Yeah. To me, that's no, that's small. But what is interesting about the corporate world, and you're actually I'm just reflecting back to my own experience in the corporate world, is that in office life, is that you are, in some ways, as a corporate worker, you're forced into these relationships with these other people. Like you go every day and you're in this building, and these are like forced friendships, but they're really truly relationships. And that's the interesting thing about this kind of group coaching, is that as opposed to other group coaching, what's interesting about corporate wellness and group coaching in this format is that everybody knows each other a little bit.
Of course.
I was thinking, I did a corporate wellness gig for the parking authority.
Oh, that's a great thing. I love it.
Yeah. So in the parking authority, just not to get into the weeds of this, but there's office staff, and then there's the parking meter people, and those guys work shifts, and then there's the towing impound part of it. And they all communicate with each other, but some of them work in the office, some of them work on the street, some of them work at midnight, but they all know each other. And it was so fun. I think the topic I led with them was something about, I was talking about protein, just the importance of protein. I managed to sneak this one in, like, let's all try to get a nice protein forward breakfast. But, Sally would say, yeah, but Roger works the 3 a.m. shift. So should he eat breakfast at 3 a.m? And it was so interesting how they could converse amongst themselves. And I was honestly just a facilitator in this room, facilitating conversations about how we can all have protein at breakfast, whether you're sitting in a tow truck or you're sitting in an office desk. And it's so unique. It's a really unique environment, actually.
That lights me up too, is it's that creating like the complex issues. Like, wait a minute, he's a shift worker. Is he even getting enough sleep? And maybe that's why he or she is gaining weight. They're not sleeping enough. And is it like the circadian rhythms are all off. So those kinds of things really light me up. And it can be such an interesting place to start for health coaches, just being almost a little detective for certain people in certain situations.
And honing their inner detective. I love doing that for people. Like that's kind of what you're talking about, is these micro habits, habit stacking, small incremental changes where they go off and run experiments, collect the data. There's no pressure. There's tons of grace. It's like, we're just going to try this for a while, because I maintain that this is going to sound huge, but one of the things that we do as health coaches is like a full identity shift. I'm the kind of person who supports my health with XYZ behaviors. And many people who are stuck in sort of conventional health wisdom paradigms or unhealth have wrapped themselves up in this identity of, I'm a healthy person, I'm an overweight person, I'm a tired person, and we're actually changing their whole identity. No big deal. But we're doing that by inviting them to participate in slightly different habits, incremental change that over time become ingrained and changes their whole identity. It's enormous. But this doesn't happen by going in and delivering a PowerPoint presentation in a boardroom.
No. That's why it's fun, because you can listen. I say this all the time, and you guys know this, but when you really think about it, and I present to HR directors and CEOs this way, when you really think about it, we are the prevention arm of the healthcare/sick care system. Right. Because when you go, they always say, like, get your preventative screenings, like your mammogram and your colonoscopy and your PSA test. That's not preventative. That's early detection. Right. That's where you go and find out if you have these diseases, right? And then you detect them early and you can manage that disease because it's been detected early. We are the prevention arm of this industry. We're the ones helping you prevent preventable diseases like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, elevated blood pressure, elevated blood sugar. That's what we do. So when you sell it like that, we want you to get your preventative screening, but it's really not a preventative. Is it preventing cancer? No, it's detecting it early. We can help you prevent all of these diseases. And we can do that so simply, like you just said, with micro habits and changing little things and getting you to be your own body's detective. And if you can take that person who's that shift worker working, who probably doesn't make a lot of money working in the parking industry, you can get that person to realize, I don't have to be 100% organic, eating grass-fed beef. It would be great, but you can't give them that information because they'll quit before they start. They'll say, I'll never get there. You can help them along and not change their life, not only change their life, they're going to bring that home to their family.
Right.
And change the life of a generation of people. That's what really lights me up.
So what I love about this too is I want to just coaches listening to gain a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of confidence in taking ownership of what we do and helping to redefine what actually increases the rate of success. So many people are so impatient and they want these massive changes because they want massive change at the end. But every time they've gone down that path, if you really get them talking about things that they've tried in the past, that kind of stuff is not sustainable. It's too big, too much change all at once, and they just fall apart. Whereas these smaller incremental changes, it takes longer, but it lasts. And again, going back to this most recent, some of the messages I'm getting from people, I've heard this 3 times. I need to have more patience.
Yes.
You're telling me I need to have more patience. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, it's literally been a week. And they're like, I haven't lost 5 pounds yet. And I'm going, okay. So let's kind of reframe like expectations. So I have a question for you then, because I know people listening all of this is great information as far as how I can build a corporate wellness program, but I need a corporation willing to let me come in. So how do you, first of all, reach out to these entities to get an audience? What does a pitch look like? How do you develop that? Let's start from, let's get our first corporate wellness client. Where does that start?
So I always say, even though we're in this Zoom world and I'm talking to you in Florida and you in Canada, start in your own backyard. That's the best way to do it. Start with a small circle, like businesses that you can drive by and you see and you know what they do. Start there. I would start with a smaller business. One of my big clients had 45,000 employees. The number of gatekeepers that were for new vendors to come in the circus, you had to, go jump through hoops to get into this company was overwhelming. They sought me out, but had I been interviewing for them, I would have quit after the first one. Smaller businesses often get overlooked. So if you can go to a business that say has under 500 people, maybe even under 250 people, that's a great place to start. If it's a company that is known in your area, great. Like I know people who work in we have a lot of micro breweries here in New England. So the beer companies are great. It doesn't seem like it would be a follow, beer company and health coaching, but it really does. Companies that are best places to work, you can look that up. You can look at best places to work in blank, my state or in my area, because once they become a best place to work, it has nothing to do with what they're selling. Best place to work has to do with culture. Also, healthiest places to work. You can find they win awards for being the healthiest businesses. They want to stay the healthiest businesses. So start with places like that. And you can look that up. There's something called, I use it, it's called Zippia. And you go, it's like a job. It's almost like an Indeed. And I'm sure you can do this with Indeed, but I really love the Zippia. I have it I have a free Facebook group that I put it on, and you go on and you look up like biggest companies in my state. So for, you're in Florida, I wouldn't be biggest companies, but part of the time I spend in Maine, biggest companies in Maine could be 15,000 people and the smallest could be 200. And it gives you all this information about the company. You can go onto their website. And then, so once you've found a company that you want to target, the second thing I tell you to do, go to their careers page on their website. You want to know what they do, of course, but if you go to their careers page, that's where the magic is. That's where they talk about what it's like to work here. What do our benefits look like? Oftentimes the benefits have the wellness program in there. Do they have a wellness program? Do they focus on family health and wellness? And once you dig into that careers page, then you can start coming up with a pitch that shows what their company looks like from the inside. And then you're going to pitch very likely to the HR director. Sometimes they'll already have a wellness program in place. So then you'd pitch to their wellness people. Maybe it's their wellness team, maybe it's their wellness director, but most likely you're going to start with HR because they do oftentimes get stuck with running the wellness programs. And then if they have a wellness team, you'll go to them. That's where you start. So you find a company near you, you research them on their careers page, and then you reach out to HR or their wellness team with what you want to do. And you come, and then the next thing I say is just create an outline, a 4, 6, or 8 week outline, depending on what they want. Give them a couple ways to work with you. Maybe you can say, well, I'd like to come in, maybe I'll just do a lunch and learn or a small workshop to start. And then you immediately come up with, and by the way, this is what I do next from this, the first program that I did only 2 weeks or 1 hour. Now I have a follow-up, it's a 4-week program. So give them a few options to work with you and put them on a one sheet, like one piece of paper with a short bio of yourself. And that's a great way to start all this out.
Awesome. Really good advice. I love that first piece of advice, which is seek out these smaller, almost grassroots-ish companies first, because they are probably more open-minded to, not always, but probably more open-minded to this idea. Way fewer gatekeepers, to your point.
Gatekeepers, right.
Big time.
Yeah.
And the culture is really crucial. I think about all the big companies I used to work for, and it's like, there's no, trying to penetrate that would just be, you'd be spinning your wheels. It'd be so disheartening. But there's so many cool companies out there doing really interesting things that would welcome you with open arms. That's really nice. And then the pitching idea, having the one sheet is a good exercise too. And this is also something that I'm going to be teaching in my business course, which is succinctly describe what you do, what you will do in a way that benefits them.
Right.
This isn't about you. This isn't my resume. Here's how great I am. This is what's going to benefit them. And I think that exercise of even writing that out, of creating that document, is going to be a massive clarifying exercise for a health coach looking to start their business. Here's what problem I solve, right?
And when you think about it, it's a 1 page. So you got to cut out, you got to keep cutting out words, They do think about how much an HR director has to do in a day. They don't want to hear 6 paragraphs about who you are and all the credentials you have. They want to know. I'll tell you one thing they want to know. So I'm going to backpedal for a minute. You're going to pitch first to HR or the decision maker. It could be the CEO. So what do those people want? What are their pain points? Okay. Because we're always talking about what are their pain points? Their pain points are they have an unhealthy culture. They've got a lot of absenteeism. They have something in their industry called presenteeism, where people are coming in, but they're just not healthy and well. And they're not thinking about what they're doing that day. They're just there, but they're not really productive. Loss of productivity, loss of, absenteeism, loss of people working. They want healthy, engaged, happy employees. Okay. The employees want to learn something interesting and great. They may want to lose weight. They may want to learn about metabolic health. They may want to learn about, primal health. What is that? What does it mean? So you've got to kind of create a pitch first for that HR director. So start talking about what you can do for them. Then when you're pitching to the employees and you're going to create something that they can send out to employees, now start pitching to employees. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. You've got to think of what that gatekeeper is looking for out of a wellness program, and then what the people want to see when they get there.
Yeah. You know what is interesting today too, in terms of just employers, one of the things I'm seeing is having a really hard time finding. There's so many open positions.
Unbelievable.
Right. And so you want to be able to attract really talented people that are going to stay with you for a long time. Right. And what's going to attract people? This is just a prime example of my son. I mean, and this is a healthy almost 24-year-old kid. when he was looking at companies, he had a couple of offers. He chose the one that had like this amazing benefits package and helped cover like costs of a gym and all this. He just loved that because what the message it says is they care about their employee.
That's true.
So I think that's a phenomenal pitch for, in particular now, just a very timely conversation to have with corporations that are looking to attract high quality talent and people that are going to be on the job and more productive. But then I think you've got kind of two avenues. You've got the companies that right now don't offer anything, right? Where you need to kind of help explain how you can install a turnkey health coaching program for everyone. And then you've got those that you're suggesting that kind of already have a wellness program. And my pitch for this last corporate wellness client that already had a lot was, you know what, I think this is amazing. And I commend you for everything that you've done. There's a ton of resources in here, but let me ask you, what percentage of your employees actually use the resources?
Right, exactly.
It's like 20%, right? So the one thing that's missing in here is someone who can tie together how to use these resources. The only thing that I see missing is actual coaching. Do you have anybody on staff that actually acts as the coach, or would it be a value that that's what we bring to the table?
That would be amazing.
Have to actually employ a coach on staff. That's what we do. And that's what got it. So there's two different approaches to this. One is for that corporation that knows they need to install something and they don't have anything yet and why they need to. And then the other is how some of these corporations that already have that mindset can just continue to improve.
No, guys, that is amazing that you did that. That is so fantastic. And now I want you to think about something else. If you want to go and do what I do, which is manage wellness programs for corporations, and you're talking about the ones who have nothing, you can pitch them and say, listen, I can work on getting this entire thing paid for by your health insurance provider. Because sometimes they give you wellness dollars, these companies, and there are times when, I'm sorry, someone's coming in, my dogs are running out. There are times when an insurance company will pay for the wellness program as long as there's a plan in place. So you can work within a wellness budget and you can run the whole show, create a wellness program for that company, soup to nuts. And a lot of times you can get either partial payment or full payment from the insurance company that has nothing to do with getting your health coaching paid by insurance. If you understand the difference, they're just paying your fee to run their wellness program. That's how I get paid.
Got you.
So it's a great way if you have a company that doesn't have a wellness program, you could start one for them.
Yeah.
You're going to hear a lot of stuff. Sorry about that. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Edit.
I'm curious, once you're in these companies now, what does like your programming look like? So, how do you deliver materials, or how do you spend time with people? Are you tracking individuals in any way? What does the programming look like?
So because I have so many, I have sort of a membership for corporations. And I have 17 and about 7,000 people and then family members. So there's no way to track everybody. Right. And it's complicated. It's complicated. I've been doing it a long time. It's very linked up with health insurance. So if there are a number of different types of wellness programs, there are these called outcomes-based wellness programs, and then there are participation wellness programs. Outcomes-based, they're a little complicated, and they have to do with getting a biometric screening and having your blood sugar, your cholesterol, your blood pressure taken. And then you guys are going to love this. They still use BMI. The most outdated, ridiculous way to measure anybody's body composition. I am working very hard to get that out of what I do and focusing on getting out of it everywhere. But anyway, that's what they do. So if you sort of reach these benchmarks, you get money. If you don't reach those benchmarks, then you can take a program like what we provide, and then you'll get money just from taking the program. So you don't have to reach the benchmark, you just have to take the program. So my programs are, what does everybody have? I normally go in and I go through insurance claims. So I get aggregate data showing insurance claims, showing pharmacy claims, And I look at that and see what the company needs through what the health of their employees. You know what? You don't even need to do that.
No.
You know, half the people have diabetes, type 2
Right.
diabetes. You know, half of them have heart disease. You know, half of them are not moving at all. You know, half of them are eating all this processed food. So you can go in under the assumption that that's what they have and put programs together that would follow what I'm doing at a higher level. You already know that. We already know that. So just put in programs in place that would follow those health conditions and help people with those health conditions, and you've got a program.
Yeah. But logistically speaking, how is it delivered?
Right now, all of my programs are delivered via online course, Zoom,
Great.
or email campaigns are big.
Oh, yeah.
I do like a 3-3-3 challenge where and this is a good one for health coaches, and I don't care if anyone steals this. I do a 3-week email campaign, 3 habits, 3 weeks to lose 3 pounds or 3 points in your blood pressure, whatever. To 3-3-3, do something for 3 weeks because it's so doable, 21 days. So one of mine, I'll do water, fiber, and movement, exercise, and working out. And I get them like 3 habits we're going to work on together for 3 weeks. You can do that all in the email campaign. So you can do an entire great wellness program in an email campaign. And by the way, you don't even have to have like a big email service provider, because most likely you're going to send it to the HR director and they're going to send it to their employees. So it can be as simple as giving an HR director something to forward 3 times a week to the people who want to join it. So it can start out that simple, an email campaign. But if you can get in front of people, that's the greatest way to do it.
Yeah.
If you can get in front of people, remember, health coaches out there, those people might want to be your one-on-one client or small client. So it's not only the avenue to become a corporate consultant, it's a great avenue to get in front of a lot of people that their company trusts. So they're going to trust you. I
like the idea of using all 3 of those techniques. So have an online curriculum that people get enrolled in that teaches whatever your methodology might be, with an email campaign that supports, just to keep them engaged on a daily or weekly or whatever basis. And then having live workshops of some kind, whether that is in person ideally or over web conferencing or both, so that the people can know the person, the actual coach behind all of it. And to your point, there's a conversion opportunity. Hey, I really like Sally's vibe. I'm going to seek her out as my individual health coach. So I love that model. That's really great. I appreciate you explaining that to us.
And I think, one thing I would say is, I think if you're looking for a niche in health coaching, then you want to do corporate, and the niche is not there because you have to offer it to everyone. Come up with some kind of like family health, because they always remember, the employee gets the health insurance, right? But everyone in their family is on that health insurance. So they want the whole family healthy. So if you can come up with some kind of family health niche and you're going into corporations, they're going to love that. Love it.
Yeah. And what I think is really cool too, in some of the corporate wellness programs will allow you to let your family members join.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you just maybe you pay for your families to jump in on, on your own dime, or they subsidize it somehow. But there's some skin in the game to get the rest of the company involved. Not always, but I second that tremendously, because if you've got the family involved, then the employee will stay involved. Because over time, once the program ends, if the home environment is still Oreos, cupcakes, and like
that's exactly what I say. If you go home to Oreos and chaos, you're never going to be able to maintain what you learned in your 1-hour lunch and learn. I absolutely demand, if they're going to engage me, they have to have family members involved. My business is called Healthy Fit Family, because when you guys know, you owned a gym, when that person's coming to you, if the family isn't going to join in and try to be healthy, it's going to fall apart. So that 1 hour a day is not going to help. So I really ask them, if they're going to engage me and I'm going to run it, family members are going to be involved. It doesn't cost me any more to have a family member take my online course.
Right.
it doesn't cost them anymore. It really, really behooves them to have the entire family healthy because they're paying for their health insurance.
Absolutely.
Well, and here's something I would love your spin on here too, because I think in terms of corporate wellness as a company, as a unit, in terms of managing that relationship, it takes a little bit more time than just a one-on-one client, but it's not as though if you've got 50 people in your corporate wellness course that it takes 50 times
No.
the amount of time. It doesn't. It's moderately more because you just have more moving parts. But at the end of the day, it's that corporation is the actual client, right?
That's
And it's just all based on how much of you is there. Are you doing live webinars? Do they
Right.
want you to be able to take on some one-on-one clients and how all that builds out? But even though you are new to this idea, perhaps you started your practice and right now you're just doing online, one-on-one coaching, maybe you do some small groups and you have an interest in going this direction. You don't have to do this wholesale complete change. You can just start with one company at a time, right? And sort of move in that direction. And I just want to encourage people to consider this because once again, it gives you the ability to help more people at once.
Right.
And so I would kind of love your take on that in terms of managing this from a practice standpoint. What do you think a corporate wellness client might bring to the table for you in terms of additional service or things to consider? That's different.
I see the three things when you get a corporate client. Amplifies your brand immediately. You put that immediately on your website or your marketing materials or your one page, whatever you have. It amplifies your profits because all those things you just talked about, you're going to charge more to a corporation than you're going to charge to a one-on-one. And then it amplifies your impact because you are able to work with people who could otherwise not afford you, and a lot of them at once. Mm-hmm. So when you're going into a company, you're going to remember, you think about all that. So when you're creating the outline for your first programs, that's where the work is. That first program is going to take you a lot of time, like any online course. When you guys started teaching, putting this together had to be enormous. Putting this podcast together had to be an enormous effort. But then it gets easier. So the first one is the big amount of work, but you want to make it so good that you can just rinse and repeat. You just keep selling that same course to numerous companies. But once you sell that course, so let's just say it's Health 101, okay, Nutrition 101, whatever. Then immediately when you're done with that corporation, say, hey, I would like to go to the, 201 or whatever it is when you're moving up in the school, like Nutrition 201, or they really want to learn about microbiome, or they really want to learn about how to keep toxic stuff off their skin. Whatever it is you want them to go to, you just start pushing that at the 5th or 6th week. Would you like to see this? Give them a survey at the end so that you see what they want to see. So the point with your question is, the first one is the most time consuming, of course. You've got to create this thing for them. Then you just look at that's how you're going to make your money. You're just going to keep selling that over and over. And then you can have that second, I always call it like layering. Then you've got that second layer course that you're doing with that same corporation. Let me tell you, I'm the person in charge of hiring people who I do a lot of it myself, but I also bring in a lot of other people. I can't possibly do everything. I don't know ergonomics. I don't, there's so many, I'm not a yoga teacher. I don't do all that stuff. So I have to bring other people in. Once I find someone that I like and is organized and has like an outline for me and knows what they're doing, I'm like, just send me the bill. I am so busy. I just want them to keep doing what they do and engaging the employees and making everybody happier and healthier. I don't want to keep looking for new coaches. Yeah. So once you've got a company, they can be very, very loyal. And quick side note, municipalities, like you worked with the parking people, towns, school district, municipalities are incredibly loyal. So if you get into that world, then you can really, a lot of my clients are municipal clients. So just remember, the first one is the difficult one. And after that, it gets easy.
That's true of any program,
Yes.
actually.
Yes.
That's for every health coach who's getting started. It's a lot of work up front, and that tapers off.
Right.
You have to do that
so
work.
much fun.
It is fun. Thank
so much
you.
fun working with these groups after you get that down, and don't be fearful. Go in there and do, you know what? Go in there with a cup. I always go to McDonald's and I say, can I have a large sweet tea? Just no tea. And they hand me that huge cup. And I go in on my first day and I bring a thing of sugar and I have a prize for like, stop me when you think this is how much sugar is in this sweet tea, and something simple that's funny and great. And it can be that simple to create a course around food labels. So you can make it as complex as you want, or you can make it simple and fun, and people are just going to want that break and they're going to want to be going to your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a follow-up question to that, because you mentioned how it amplifies three things, one of which was profits. So how do you think through pricing for corporations?
This is always the question. This is the biggest question I have. I teach this as well to health coaches. It's complex, and the answer is always, it depends. Like you guys, if you live in Beverly Hills, your pricing for coaching is going to be completely different than if you live in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the scope of what you're doing. It depends on a lot of things. What you have to do, and we all know mindset around pricing is a lot to do with us.
Right.
You've got to get very comfortable with what you're going to say you charge. Sometimes you can go in and say, what is your budget? We had a great woman who come on. I have a membership that teaches this to people who want to get into corporate. And she's an incredible corporate consultant. And she came in and said, you can say to them, what is your budget? It's not like you and I talking to someone who's, oh, how much do you have to spend? It doesn't seem smarmy like that to a corporation, because they know they have a budget. You want to know what it is. And you can say, like, I don't want to spend your whole budget. I just want to understand the parameters under which I'm going to create this course for you or create this program for you. We can either add a lot of things in, I can take some things out. And she said, never say but, always say, and it's still going to be a wonderful program, no matter, as long as we can get to a budget that's right for both of us. Mm-hmm. So let's just say you charge $125 per session for coaching, and you want to do a 6-week program. I would say 2 or 3 times your hourly rate. So say you want to do a 6-week program, it's $2,000 for a 6-week program. That's pretty much a no-brainer for a lot of these companies. So that might be a good place to start, as long as you're comfortable blurting out, yeah, it's, $300 an hour or whatever. But they also know it's not $300 an hour where someone's coming to you. You've got to create the materials. You've got to get everything you're doing. If you're going in person, you've got to bring stuff. You've got to take drive time. You've got to park if you're in a city. So they understand that. What you don't want to do is gouge them. And that what you don't want to do is start with your highest price when you're starting out, because you're not going to feel comfortable that's not going to come out of your mouth. One of my clients just got a $20,000 engagement, but it took a long time for her to feel comfortable even talking about that. So start with where you're comfortable, and then you'll very quickly realize, oh, I can start charging more for this right away.
That's great.
Great advice. Thank you.
Yeah. This
is
pricing
always, but
yeah,
feel comfortable. Yeah.
This has been really interesting. I think it's probably time for us to wrap. I want to thank you for teaching me a word that I think is really interesting. I hadn't heard the word presenteeism before. That's what I was a presentee when I was metabolically unwell and dragging my ass to work, and I was physically there, but I wasn't getting anything done, and I couldn't. That, I think that is such an interesting selling point. And I even wonder how many, I mean, this is obviously an HR term that came from HR managers somewhere, but I'm wondering how many corporations even know that they have these zombies sitting in desks in their offices.
I think they do. And then when you think about it, think about this. If you want to go into work with like manufacturing,
right?
Because the lower paid people, believe it or not, the lower you're paid, the higher they're going to spend on wellness because it's just an easy, quick way, $2,000 for some health coach to come in and they don't have to pay their employees. Sometimes that happens. It's dangerous for presenteeism to happen there. You can hurt yourself on the line or a production line, or if you're working in the car industry or something. So it's not only just like sitting there and being a zombie, it can be dangerous in certain industries. Right. So, you can talk about safety. You can listen, the sky is the limit. When I say that, it is limitless what you can do when you start thinking about corporate wellness and start thinking of all the different types of businesses. And like you said, presenteeism is just one of them. Yeah. I have a whole list of terms that people should learn when they're in the health coaching industry. Maybe I can send you guys that and you can give it to your people. So they have some terms that they should know when they're speaking to HR people.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, going in and asking for some information around insurance claims and things like that. And, pharmacy claims is interesting. That's great data. And then, but presenteeism or this kind of thing is sort of subjective, hard to measure, but I feel like it's pretty rampant. And if you could go in and almost speak to it or teach to it, here's all the people who are putting in insurance claims and kind of driving up those costs. And also there's the costs of just lack of productivity, or in the manufacturing case, potential risk or danger. Like I know truck drivers, for example, they can have their licenses suspended if their HbA1c is, consistently too high or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of interesting data to go in with. And I thought that was a really interesting part of this conversation. Well, it was all interesting. They taught us a lot. I think that there's a lot here that anybody interested in going into corporate wellness can just actually take. I think it's been a perfect toolkit. I think you've answered everything that people generally come to us with about this, and it's very actionable, this conversation.
Yeah, actionable. And it should be. I want you to take action and just do it. Listen, get used to hearing no, because it's going to happen. You're not going to land every corporate client. I don't land every corporate client that I go for. And they used to seek me out on my LinkedIn page, but now it's it's more saturated market, less so in Canada, I will say. So it's a good market to start in. But yes, just accept that you're going to hear some no's, but also accept that once they say yes, you can just continue working with that client long-term.
Yeah. This is completely a presumption out of thin air, and I might be totally wrong on this, but you think about the fact that after 2 years, return to work is happening. Offices are reopening up after having been at home, having the staff at home. And, maybe there's a sense in the C-suite or the executive level that we need to take care of these people. They came back begrudgingly to the office. Let's take care of them. Like maybe there's been a shift there that you can play off of a little bit, not to take advantage of a bad situation, but that's interesting. It's just the whole corporate world had a bit of a reset maybe recently.
I don't think you're saying you're taking advantage of that information. It's like our responsibility. I really do believe we had a pandemic come in and kill 1 million people. And that's a lot close to in our country. We know type 2 diabetes and heart disease kills that many almost every year. Mm-hmm. Right. So our pandemic that we deal with is ongoing. So if we can I just feel like after all of that, and the people who died the most from it had those metabolic conditions, it's our responsibility to get this information out there. And as a CEO or a CFO or an HR, it's their responsibility to bring in people to help their employees. We are a nation of people who are unhealthy, right? Really unhealthy. And we all have some responsibility. And I just think you're not taking advantage of a situation by saying like, this is a collective effort here.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think it's just finding it. I think it's just a solution to a problem we have right now, right? Rather than taking it to the back. Here's a problem. I have a tool that we can fix it. So I think
guys, you go in and you start talking to the HR director and you say, I really want to give a program to people who might otherwise not be able to afford what I do. They are kind. Most HR people went in just like we did to help people and to be a people person. And that's going to speak to them. And that is something. And those people, by the way, always think they're not allowed to be there. They always ask me, are we allowed to be here? When I do big presentations for corporations, I have one slide that just says, are we allowed to be here? And I let them sit there with that. And I said, it's the most asked questions I get in the entire wellness industry. That garbage collector, or that little administrative assistant, or the bus driver in a school district, are we allowed to be here? That's what you can speak to people about when you're pitching your program. I want to bring everybody into this program.
Yeah, I love that. So tell us how you work with health coaches and where they can find some of your programs and what you do.
So I have a very small membership, because remember, this is not my main source of income is my corporate consulting, but I get asked so much about this. And I joined a membership program with a guy named Stu McLaren, who I went in to start a corporate membership. But so many people were asking me about how to get into corporate that I started this small corporate coaches collaborative membership, teaching people how to do this. But they can jump on my free Facebook page. I open this for maybe 10 people at a time every few months, just because it's a big job. As you know, coaching other coaches is a big job. But the Corporate Coaches Collaborative is a Facebook group that I have, a free Facebook group. And I give a lot of information in there. That whole Zippia thing I talked about, there's a whole video on there about how to use it. And then I am going to start doing some micro coaching, like maybe 3 or 4 sessions, not expensive. It's not high ticket at all, maybe 4 at a time, to get you started on like how to pitch it, what to say, whatever they need to get them started. So there are a lot of ways that people can work with me, but I would say just start with the Corporate Coaches Collaborative Facebook page, and I'll announce things I'm doing there.
I love it. Awesome. So Corporate Coaches Collaborative on Facebook. Where else can people kind of find you and follow you?
So that's the best place. I'm not a huge, I don't even do Instagram, because LinkedIn, LinkedIn, Marcy Morrison, because, corporate is not really a LinkedIn kind of, an Instagram world. It's much more LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me. And I'm not a crazy high level social media person. It's more for this kind of thing, just helping some coaches, because it's really, I love it. And my company is called Healthy Fit Family, healthyfitfamily.com. And then I have also started the Worksite Wellness Membership.com. And that's where I keep talking about, I want to do my part. I want to create low cost, high value memberships for corporations to come in and get wellness programs that they don't have to pay $150,000 to get. Because, so Worksite Wellness Membership is just, it'll show you what I do for corporations, but that's it.
Nice.
Awesome. This was so great, Marcy. Thank you so much
So
for all
much
your
fun.
wisdom and passion and enthusiasm. I loved it.
I was so excited to have this come up, and I'm so great to meet the two of you. I love your podcast, and this is very exciting.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.